I was not like a good child. Like I used to always think that I was supposed to have my way. I always had tantrum fits. I had like a bad temper. I wasn't going down the right path.
I have a student who lives in this house, and these are conditions they mirror third world conditions. This house for many years was without power, and a family of 6 was living in there with no power, drawing maybe a little bit of power off an extension cord from the neighbor. It's truly still very eye-opening for us after all these years to see the conditions that some of our young people live in. Historically, the schools in our community have scored, graded out as some of the lowest performing schools in the nation, and therefore our kids just had no opportunity, even if they tried, even if they had the ability and the drive to get a good education, the opportunity just simply wasn't there. Based on how they performed on their SATs and ACTs and their lack of ability to get into post-high school programs, we realized then if we were going to really truly affect these kids in a real way, we had to educate them also. So we started Bright Futures Academy. We actually started with homeschool curriculum with 12 kids out of the 45 or 50 that we were working with. And then over the years, we've evolved into a fully accredited traditional private school that welcomes 75 kids onto our campus this year.
We have many series that we offer to our young people to teach them things like conflict resolution, apathy, and a variety of other things just to help build their character and to help them to develop into better young people. That is one of the biggest things that we do here, is model what we want the young people to learn.
Like last year, I struggled through the year, and it took me a long time to realize what I was doing and that I had to either step my game up or just stay where I'm at and just fail. But you don't want to fail in life because you just don't want to be made a fool of. The sky is the limit. I feel like when I'm in the sky, I'm in the clouds. And when I'm in the clouds, I just have dreams. I always think that I can do more than I think I can actually do. So I like being in the sky. So I want to be a pilot and just take different trips around the world.
I'm Jamie Lord. I'm GCO's Director of Government Affairs. And in my job, I deal with a fair amount of elected officials. And I will say that you can't find a candidate for office, be it dog catcher to the President of the United States, that doesn't say education is one of the biggest issues facing our communities today. And in the state of Georgia, we spend over $10.5 billion just in K through 12 education alone. That doesn't even talk about pre-K or higher ed. And at the same time, we still have close to 20% of our students who don't graduate on time. So they're missing that first step in the success sequence. And education is the first step in our success sequence because it is so important that, we fund it a lot, we talk about it a lot. And yet I think most of us in the room would say we're not 100% getting it right. There's still far too many kids that are falling through the cracks. Even those that do graduate on time often are underprepared for whatever it is they're going to do next, be that career or college or just being part of civil society, as we talked about before. So that's the problem. What do we do about it? And as Tim talked about earlier, there is not one solution. There are many. We're going to hear about 3 of them today. And we have some excellent panelists to give you some hope for the future in education. We've got Philip Ross with Bright Futures Academy, Anna Rector with Youth Entrepreneurs, and Jim Hollandsworth with the PATH Project. And rather than me reciting a bio for each of them, I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their organizations. And we'll start with Jim.
Well, hey guys, my name is Jim Hollandsworth. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit based here in Atlanta called the PATH Project. We go into mobile home park neighborhoods and partner with the families who live there to provide educational programs for the kids living in those neighborhoods. We serve primarily first and second generation Mexican immigrant families, so kids whose parents are first generation, kids who are mostly born in the U.S., but are struggling in school for a variety of reasons. We come alongside the schools and their families to help them find their path to graduation and a career.
Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Rector, and I am now the Director of Stakeholder Relations for Youth Entrepreneurs, so disregard that. I'm going to state the obvious. My hair is bigger today. I've already been pointed out 2 or 3 times. That is me, okay? But youth entrepreneurs, we teach the principles of business and entrepreneurship to high school students throughout the country. We were founded in 1991 by Charles and Elizabeth Koch. They saw a need in public education that really wasn't addressing the need for practical skills building and the application of those skills, right? How to discover your innate skills and abilities, and then how do you apply those to improve your life, but also the lives of those in your community. We started in that one classroom in Wichita over, 30 years ago. We're now knocking on the door of 26 states this fall, serving 7,000 students in about 300 high schools.
Cool. Philip.
Cool. Good morning. I'm Philip Ross, Bright Futures Atlanta, and I have less hair now than I did then. But anyway, Bright Futures Atlanta was founded in the early 2000s as an after-school and summer camp, and we were trying to fill the need, not for academics, but for other types of achievement, junior achievement, financial literacy, things of that nature, character building, work ethic, all of those things. As we did that, our kids we started getting a bigger and bigger group on the west side of Atlanta off of Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway, formerly Bankhead. We grew our group up to about 45 and then realized that our kids just weren't even getting the core education they needed. So we started Bright Futures Academy 10 years ago. We are currently 80 plus strong in our school. We're a small school, but middle school and high school, partnering with youth entrepreneurs and other organizations to give our kids a better opportunity for life after high school.
Excellent. I would like each of you to talk a little bit about the successes you've seen through your various programs in the lives of students. And Anna, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh, so over 30 plus years, we've had a lot of impact and a lot of success with our students. We really, like I said, try to help our young people discover their innate skills and abilities, and we believe you do that through principled entrepreneurship, right? So how do you take those skills, apply them to society for a greater good, to greater yourself, but also the community? I think some of the biggest impacts we see are kind of those traditional ones: higher graduation rates from high school, students actually going to college, enrolling and matriculating, right? All of those boxes. We also have about 30% of our students actually start business ventures of their own and then go on to employ others, right? So I think that's a huge one, as not only do they become business owners, but then they become employers as well. But we often say, with YE, that isn't necessarily the end goal. Sorry if you guys can hear me. Isn't necessarily the end goal to become a brick and mortar business owner. We're really about that principled entrepreneur mindset. So if we can teach our students to be entrepreneurial in their thinking when they come work for any of you, right, they're going to add value to your business. So that's really where we've seen the greatest impact, is with that other population of students that go on to work for others, that go on to really just increase their contributions to society. So we've had some of our students go to work for major corporations. We have a young student I'm thinking about now. His name is Dexter. He's working on a platform with Amazon Web Services as we speak. And that was born out of some opportunities that came through YE. So impact for us is wide and varied. Like I said, it can be starting businesses of their own, but it can also be contributing to society in other ways.
Jim, what about Path Project?
Yeah, so for us, our story is very personal. My wife and I met a family that lived in a mobile home park 2 miles from our house. And I was a pastor, she was a teacher, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we saw a need for some help with education for the kids in this neighborhood. We saw that majority of the teenagers we met were dropping out of school. And so in 2010, when we started, until now, we've seen the graduation rate in that neighborhood increase from about 45% to now it's about 90%. So it's been cool to see there. But even more important than that for us has been seeing stories of kids who have become the first person in their family to graduate. And the thing that we've seen that's been the biggest challenge for students to take that step is simply people who believe in them and say, hey, we know that you can reach this goal. So to be the first person in your family to graduate, or the first person to go to college, or the first person to get a job that's more than just an hourly paying job is something that's a big deal. And so I think about a student like Emmanuel. Emmanuel is 21. I've known him since he was 11. He graduated high school in 2016 from South Gwinnett High School. He became, there we go. Go Comets. He became the first person in his family to graduate. He is now working for a pest control company because some business owners in our community were able to reach out to us and say, hey, how can we meet some young people who need jobs? And so he's been able to work his way up through this company. He's been there for 3 years. He's stayed in the same job longer than his dad has been in the same job. And his dad is, 45 years old. So it's been kind of cool to see him kind of consistently grow. And we see stories like that. That's, for us, it's success is hearing those kind of stories.
Philip, for those that saw the video, they got a glimpse of what you guys are up to.
Right,
but tell us
right.
more for those who did not.
Well, like Jim and his wife, my wife and I, this is very, very personal. We moved out of the suburbs and onto Bankhead Highway 20 years ago. Bright Futures Academy, while we are now a fully accredited private school, so we obviously, have to have the testing and all that, the metrics to show that we're doing what we're saying we're supposed to be doing. And those metrics are going up. We use the ITBS test for comprehension versus the CRCT, and we're watching our test scores go way, way, way up. We also use a new test for called U-Science, which is really helping the kids find out what their passion really is. And when I think of success, a perfect example for us is a young man named Alonzo. And actually, Alonzo was with us before we even started the school. But he was part of the junior achievement, the financial literacy, the character building, the work ethic, and all this. And Alonzo, while we got him into college, he was one of the group that we realized that now is when we had to start a school. We took him up to Dalton State College. Unfortunately, he failed his first semester. But while he was there, he got a job at the Kroger. Now, while he may have failed at the first semester at Dalton, his first month at Kroger, he became the bagger of the month, which was, hey, I always said it's better than not being the bagger of the month. So that was, gee whiz, 10, 12 years ago. Since that time, I've visited Dalton many times. I did Alonzo's wedding. He is now married with 2 children. And Alonzo worked his way up, and this is where I get emotional. He worked his way up from the bagger to the seafood department, to the seafood manager, and he was given 6 months ago the title of the e-commerce, which is the new big e-store within the store. He is the manager of the e-commerce store. Yeah, that's a big clap. Alonzo makes more money than I do. And he is up. He is being trained now. By the time Alonzo is 30 years old, Alonzo will have a store, a brick and mortar store of his own. Great success.
And what a very specific example of somebody just getting the success sequence right because of opportunities that were provided. Far too many students fail to see the point, and therefore they drop out. And I know, as we were talking about earlier with Marcia, it's a really big struggle for some kids to figure out for us to figure out how to keep them engaged in learning until they can get that first marker graduating high school. And I know each of you are addressing this in your own way. If you can talk a little bit more about that, but also why is this so difficult in the traditional system? Are there enough opportunities for students to find purpose and practical and immediate need? I mean, I think, we've all had these conversations in our household, right? Like, when am I going to need to do this this kind of math, or why do I need to read War and Peace? But if we can't find ways very practically to keep kids engaged and they drop out, then we've missed a step. So you guys are all addressing that. But what are the holes that you're filling, and how do we do better? Who wants to start? Philip, why not?
Sure, I'll start. For us, I don't want this will not turn into a big political dissertation, because I do believe the government, the public school system, has faced its challenges over the last many decades. And the idea of 4 years in college, that's what we all have to do. No Child Left Behind. All these programs are leaving so many children behind because they're leaving high school with no skill sets. And right now, what we're seeing in the economy of America is there are many, many challenging, well-paying jobs that it does not take a 4-year degree. And so what we're trying to do through our partnerships with youth entrepreneurs, we're also, Bright Futures Academy is working diligently with Atlanta Technical College to begin starting dual enrollment with them, possibly as early as this semester, so that we can teach our young people a skill that they can get right out of school and start making money. And for the kids in my neighborhood, that's very important. But we want them to learn a well-paying skill, not a minimum wage skill. Because if that happens, then guess what? The cycle continues.
Anna.
I don't know if I can add to that, man, because I think you've hit the nail on the head there, right? I think we've all read about workforce development efforts and all these other things that are in place to try to address what are now becoming astronomical gaps in terms of a lot of opportunities going unfilled, especially when you're talking about skilled labor jobs, right? There's just tons of them, but we don't have the folks equipped with the skills to fill them, right? So with youth entrepreneurs, we're trying to address the gap in terms of using those innate skills and ability. Well, first, finding out what they are. What are you innately good at? What do you have an aptitude at? And then once you know that, now what do I do with that? And then the second piece of that is we believe opportunities, exposures, and access is part of the winning equation. So once you know what those skills are, now I need to provide you with the opportunities, the access, the exposure to leverage those, right? So we partner with a lot of schools, obviously, like Bright Futures Academy, but we also have a ton of outside of the classroom resources where we like to say is really where the magic happens for YE students. So yes, we have this experiential approach. We believe in hands-on learning. We're not really a teach to the test type of program. We don't believe in kind of the textbook learning, right? We have that because we have to, but most of our magic happens outside of the classroom. That's where we believe students learn, where they thrive, and they really figure out, okay, where do I fit in the world? And how can I create value in my space, right? So we have a robust alumni program. We do what we call our annual summit, where we bring 300 or 400 kids together from across the nation, and we bring business leaders from across the nation as well to meet with them. We do dinners with them so students can get comfortable with speaking and introducing themselves, public speaking like this. So those skills that Philip was talking about that you don't necessarily get in the traditional education system, and then how do you use those? So that's what we're working to do, is make sure that students, when they leave us, they're prepared. They know that if they fail, it's okay, that the learnings happen in the failures. We have entire lessons built around students experiencing that, because they don't do that in traditional classrooms. If you fail, you don't get the A+, there's a problem, right, in traditional education. But for us, we believe we want students to fail so they can learn from that. And when they come and are employed by others, they'll know how to work through that. They'll know how to innovate through that and create real value for society. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. I think the only thing I would add too is, so we work primarily with students in Gwinnett County. It's a huge school district, and the students that we serve are in these middle schools and high schools where there are 3,000 and 4,000 students. And so kids from the low-income neighborhoods in those places get overlooked in the schools. There are good programs that are going on in the schools for entrepreneurship and job training, but the kids that we serve are not being engaged in those programs simply because they're kind of falling through the cracks. So that's what we're seeing, is like the more that community leaders and folks outside the schools will kind of engage with the schools. And our schools that we work with are very open to anyone coming into the school and saying, hey, we have this idea. I mean, like almost every school's like, yes, come on, we need help. We have 5,000 students here, and we're not sure what to do with them. So that's kind of been our experiences. Schools are willing to work with it, but our kids are falling through the cracks, and they're just not motivated by traditional metrics. Our kids are not. They're not motivated by grades. So they're motivated by things outside, like they can kind of think big picture, which is for us, we've seen it's been a person that shows interest, a career, a job opportunity, or something like that.
So you kind of touched on this, Jim, but I know that not only your program, but the other two as well focus primarily on students from low-income backgrounds, where research shows that the social capital, really, that we were talking about with Tim Carney at the beginning, is more lacking. So can you talk a little bit about what you offer and why it's important in terms of not just maybe academics, but a network of support and an engagement in a community that actually help lift these students up? And Jim, we'll start there.
Sure. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we see with the kids that we serve, so we're on the ground in low-income mobile home neighborhoods with immigrant families, and the biggest challenge that they face is they don't have any connections to jobs. Like they have a certain type of service industry job that they feel like they're supposed to do. So to think beyond that, they don't have any grasp of anything like that, and so they don't have. I tell people this all the time, and when business leaders come to me and ask about the students and what we're doing to help them, I always ask people, like, if you think about every job you've ever had, it's probably because you knew someone that helped you get that job. And for the kids that we serve, they do not know people that can help them get a job. So the biggest thing that we try to see in our local communities in Gwinnett is to bring business leaders in and just to get to know kids and say, hey, here's an opportunity for you to meet someone who's young, who's interested in working. And we're doing this on a very small scale, but we're seeing kids connect with business leaders, and that can be the thing that kind of motivates them to do good in school.
No, that's a huge part of YE's work. We craft summer partnerships and what we call job shadows for that reason. So yes, we have business leaders come into our classrooms and do the traditional speaking to kind of create the excitement, right, and get the interest. But where the real work happens is when we're able to take students to those companies and to those businesses. Let me say that, because I think a lot of times some organizations get caught up in taking students to the big names, right? The Georgia Powers, all of those of the world. Those are great, but we show students the full spectrum from the local, a grocery store in your neighborhood all the way up to, the Coke Industries and Georgia Pacifics of the world. And we do that because we want to address all the needs, right, in terms of students at the different varying levels. Some of them may find a fit here versus here. So that's a big piece of our work, is that relationship building with business leaders in the communities that we serve, to get them engaged in YE, to have them connect with students on a one-to-one kind of mentorship level as well. And then we also take it to that next level with the summer partnerships and our job shadows as well. But that's a huge piece of our work, is taking the students to those entrepreneurship ventures or businesses.
Well, Jamie, I learned a new term today, and that term was social capital. And for me, social capital is family and relationship. And that's one of the biggest things that we're missing in society today. It's already been talked about a lot this morning. That's what we're about. Alonzo, when he went off to college, we put him in our van, and we went, and my wife took him and 3 other kids out shopping for their toiletry items and their dormitory items and their little mini refrigerators and all that stuff. And we moved them in. They were part of a family. But on top of that, the practical life skills are paramount to success for these young people. Paramount. If you don't know how to dress for an interview, if you don't know how to shake a hand and carry on a conversation with a peer in the workplace, you are not going to climb the ladder. You might not even get on the ladder. So that's why we feel that these life skills, whether it's financial literacy or, again, even simple as personal hygiene skills, are paramount to the success of our students, and that's what we're trying to teach at Bright Futures Academy and Bright Futures Atlanta, and I know YE is. And I know Jim and his group are.
So I know we've got the the phone number up on the screen. If you have questions for me or our panelists, please text them and we'll get the questions up here and be able to answer them. But while we're working on getting questions, why don't each of you tell our audience, I know there are business leaders, nonprofits, even some elected officials and others who might want to connect with your organizations, how they would go about doing that.
Okay, but we've got tons of opportunities. Bright Futures Academy is just 2.4, Bright Futures Academy is 1.5 miles west of where you're sitting right now. Bright Futures Academy sits on the campus of City of Refuge. The Bright Futures House, which is where we started as a clubhouse, is 2.4 miles down Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway. Sorry, y'all, it's still Bankhead to me. And actually, 1 mile from there is our new Bright Futures Center that we will be opening Monday as a youth center for kids, not only at Bright Futures Academy, but also of the community. And we have lots of opportunity. We're opening up a computer lab to teach kids coding. YE will be doing classes there. We have a media center that's being opened up to, when I say media center, I mean it is a full-blown studio to teach kids what these guys are doing back here with the cameras and the editing and all that, a real skill that they can have, and we need all the help we can get. We need small businesses, large businesses who want to come in, talk to our kids, show them that there are opportunities out here in our own city that our kids have no clue about because they live in their own bubble too.
To get involved with YE, you can definitely talk to me. That is how I spend all of my days recently in this new role that I have, is looking for partnerships that will just help us increase our impact with students across the country now. Like I said, we're in 26 states, but here in Georgia, we have 41 programs. So there's still lots of opportunity here in Georgia. You can visit getye.org. There you can learn how you can become involved. Like I said, we need business partners for our field trip experiences. So if we can't commit to a long-term kind of traditional volunteer ism, that's perfectly fine. We take students, like I said, to one-day experiences. If your business or your company can host students for one day, that would be awesome. If you have someone that wants to come and speak to our students about their journey in entrepreneurship or in business, we love that. Really, the sky's the limit. We craft a lot of individualized opportunities for some of our partners as well. So we just like to meet with folks, figure out where we can find that mutual benefit for both involved and how we can impact the students that need us most. So I would say reach out to me or go to getye.org and find out how you can join us.
Awesome. I think for us, so we're based primarily in Gwinnett, Hall, and Walton counties in Northeast Atlanta. So if you're a business owner in that area and are interested in this conversation around connecting young people to apprenticeship programs and internships, would love to talk with you. We're really trying to lean into that because it's been a really good motivator for our students. So if that's your part of the woods, my booth's over there in the back left. We've got some information. Love to chat with you. Also, if you know a mobile home park around Atlanta and you're interested in seeing kind of our, what would this look like to bring to my neighborhood or a neighborhood near where I live, let me know that as well. We're looking at kind of building out an expansion model and kind of teaching people how to do what we do. So we're simply, my wife and I tell people all the time, we're just folks that didn't know what they were doing, who showed up in a neighborhood in the lives of their neighbors and tried to figure this stuff out. So love to chat with you.
We have a couple of audience questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can before I get the hook. Let's see. Anna, is YE available in other cities in Georgia outside of Atlanta?
Oh, outside of Metro Atlanta, I guess? No. So right now we're in Metro Atlanta, but we extend through, I guess, what is that, the 13 metro counties now. So we do have programs in APS, obviously, Cobb County, and I'm missing another one. Gwinnett County, sorry.
I know we have a lot of Columbus friends here, but please still seek Anna out if you're interested.
Yes.
I'm sure there are opportunities to talk about expanding.
Avidly growing. So just because we're not in your community, we can be there, trust me. So if you're interested in bringing YE to another part of Georgia, we're happy to have that discussion as well.
And this is for any of you that know the answer to this. Are any entrepreneur programs in elementary school, or do they tend to start in middle and higher grades?
Well, I have news for you. YE has recently ventured into the middle school space. Historically, our sweet spot has been in high school, so most of our programs start in kind of the 10th grade year. And then, like I said, we have supports all the way up to alumni, so that's post-college for our post-high school graduation for us entering college. But we do service middle schools in some of our program areas, just not on the scale that we service high schools. So I will say one program to consider is youth entrepreneurs. But I think you have some of the other obvious ones, right? Like Jay and some of the bigger ones, Build, that service middle school populations.
Do any of you, and if so, how, partner with United Way or 100 Black Men or Women?
United Way is partners with Bright Futures in a way that many of our larger corporations, Liberty Mutual, SunTrust, that are big supporters of Bright Futures, they support through the United Way. So the answer is yes with United Way. 100 Black Men has historically been very, very, very active in the Atlanta public school system. Our school, my wife and I bought our home strategically to be across the street 20 years ago from then West Fulton Middle School. And they've always had a great presence there, and they are in the new facility there now. But being a small private school, we haven't had that luxury yet. But hopefully, as we get bigger and have more, we have more opportunity for people to work with us versus just the public school system. We're wide open.
Yeah, we've partnered with United Way over the last 2 or 3 years as well in Gwinnett. Primarily, same type of thing where folks can kind of give. We've been able to get some grants through United Way of Greater Atlanta. We have not partnered with 100 Black Men of Atlanta, though. Would love to, though. We need to talk.
And we have in the past, so Curly Dossman is the past chair of the 100 Black Men, and he's also been a tremendous advocate for YE here in Georgia, and is actually one of the reasons why YE started here in Georgia in 2006. So we have not had a formulated partnership, but like I said, we've had plenty of mentors from the 100 support YE in the past.
Last question, Philip, quickly. What's Bright Futures graduation rate?
Graduation rate to date is pushing the heck out of 100%, probably over 97%.
Yay!